Welcome back to BIM Rules of Engagement. This is Rule 10, where we look at how do we ensure a team member knows exactly what's expected of them. I think many of you would agree with me that it's easy to just give someone, let's say, a job description and just expect them to get on with it. Yet this may also lead to some agitated staff issues, as well as project members where there's personal agendas or even egos at play. Yet, as a leader or as a BIM lead, I think best practice would be to interact with these individuals, especially when it comes down to the communication of exchange of information on a project. Sometimes this, I think, is often overlooked on projects, especially when there's deadlines involved and teams are just expected to get on with their roles as well as their responsibilities. Now, in a BIM environment, if we look at the BIM rules of engagement from different team members on the projects, I think it's vital that, especially during the, let's say, the model delivery stage, where we see information as well as data that's passing through different individuals as well as applications throughout the project stages. And of course, sometimes this is easier said than done, yet I think we'd all be naive to think that a detailed BIM execution plan would suffice. It may work in theory, but I think in the trenches, it can often be seen as running through the BIM gauntlet, when certain tasks are just expected from individuals or as well as teams on the project. Remember, for many, BIM is still new on a project. And it helps sometimes to have this BIM buddy, even if it's a YouTube mentor, that can help guide you just to even understanding new BIM acronyms, as well as the terminology. Even if it's just an analogy of a new digital standard that's just been recently published. But remember, players are not only professionals. They also need to be there to guide you through these new digital processes. And having a BIM leader on the team does not necessarily mean they need to be the expert, or for that matter, let's say a helicopter manager. But in this new age of digital working, we could all do with a BIM buddy, even if it's on YouTube. Remember, learning to speak and influence all your ideas and your vision will only down your lips if you're not able to influence others and maybe even learn from others. Remember, the person that you will be in the future is also based on everything that you do today and the experience that you gain from other professionals, but more so from the people that you listen to and you learn from their opinions. All that information that you now absorb, even if it's a positive or a negative one, will affect your future projects as well as the project that you're on now. And that information, you need to feed your mind as well as the team that will help shape that environment so they know what's expected of you within the projects. Now, our mentor for this week is Marcia Balpani. She's a senior BIM advisor at Mason London, and she knows all too well what it means when working with a team and what's expected of them when implementing a digital engineering strategy on a project. Marcia is also well known for her authoring of the European standard for the level of information need, which I think is a vital part of understanding what's expected from a team when on a project.
I'm Marta Balpani and I work for Mace as Senior BIM Advisor. And my work relates to setting and delivering digital strategy for international clients on digital innovation, what we call building information modeling. I'm also involved in other initiatives. I'm ambassador of the UK BIM Alliance, so responsible of implementing BIM in the UK. I'm also working on standardization at European level, where I lead a group of experts on the topic of level of information need. So that is moving forward from the traditional concept of LOD, and also working on standardization at international level at ISO on building information modeling. So these are some of the initiatives where I'm involved at the moment. So really passionate about building information modeling. So let's go to the topic of today, that is how to ensure member of a team to know exactly what is expected of them. So it's quite an important topic because most of the time project members, they don't know how to deliver building information modeling most of the time because BIM is something still new in our sector, in our industry. So it's really important to define roles and responsibilities early on in the project. What I mean with early on. So roles and responsibilities should be defined at tender stage. So to be sure that when a project is awarded, so the clients already define which are the different roles and responsibilities that they would like to have in their project. But we know that most of the time our clients, unfortunately, they don't have the skills in order to define those roles and responsibilities. So if those are not defined in the client's requirements, in particular in the exchange information requirements, then it is important to define those in the BIM execution plan. So really in the pre-appointment BIM execution plan, so our proposal during the bid phase to define clearly which are the different roles responsibilities, and then those to be established in the a metrics in our BIM execution plan. But writing down roles responsibility is in a document is not enough. It's really important to communicate those to the project member themselves. This should happen in different phases. So when there is not a project still active, so what we want from our employees, for example, during the recruitment phase, so it's really important to have a clear job description on which are the different skills that we look at different people that needs to deliver BIM in our project. And then also in our employees after the recruitment for different projects, we know that there might be different requirements on BIM. So it's really important that we make this clear to them. So early on in the project, to have a session with our team and our employees in order to explain which is expecting for them. And it should be ideal to have well-defined policies and procedure, different processes that we can refer to. So that is not something that is new every time, but we have some documented and well-established procedure that they can use in order to deliver their job when dealing with BIM. It's also important when we think about a project dynamic that this topic of BIM is not just related to BIM expert. What I always say to my team is that BIM is really for everyone. So when we have BIM in a project, we needed to define the roles and responsibility and to explain how BIM is used in the project also to those who are not directly called BIM expert. Because when we deliver BIM in a project, also the role of the project manager, the architect, the engineers, the contractor, and the subcontractor in the facility management is also changing. So there are different skills and responsibilities that they need to be aware, because how we produce information, how we exchange information is different. So my advice and my experience is not just to focus on what is expected by project managers that are just asked to deliver tasks that are related to BIM, but it's really important to have this conversation with the entire team and to explain how BIM is changing the way that we deliver projects. And this conversation should happen, as I said before, at the very early beginning of the project. But it is also important to keep a constant update and to check if the different responsibilities are clear for our project members. And if not, if there is something, it's important to define a very early beginning needed training, so to fill possible gaps. Another point that I really want to underline is that most of the time we think that what is expecting from our team members is just related to hard skills. So how to use tools, how to use different, how to deliver different deliverables and so on. But the reality is that we always repeat this, that building information modeling is also about collaboration, how we work together. It's really about people. So it's really important to define since the beginning, not just the hard skills, but also the soft skills. So how we work together, how we collaborate, how we interact. And this is really, really important because we know that building information modeling is not just to use one tool or a set of tools. It's really about also processes and procedure, and also about this human factor on how we work in a more collaborative way. So it's really important to define since the beginning those soft skills as well, and to monitor and to help our project team members to achieve those. That we know is not something that you can easily learn, but it's so important how we communicate and how we exchange information in a collaborative environment. And it's important to have this conversation at the beginning of the project, but also later on in the project. And this conversation can be a one-to-one with our project team members. So what I usually do, but also can be formal and informal, just to check how people feel and if they are clear about what they need to deliver for that project. It's really important to create a culture of well-being in our team, so they feel also safe and not worried to say that something is not clear or they are facing issues. So if it's important to establish these positive environments, so formal and informal chat with our project team members to check how they are doing, if how BIM is delivering in the project is clear for everyone. It's also important to mention that different roles and responsibilities in some country has been defined by the national standardization on BIM. For example, in Italy, we have the UNI 11337 part 7 that is related to professional qualifications, so to different skills. So it is really well defined who is the BIM manager, who is the BIM coordinator, who is the BIM specialist, who is the common data environment manager. And for all of those professional, that is defined the different qualification, the skills, the different abilities that need to have, the knowledge that they need to have, and so on. So, but in other countries, those has not been defined very clearly. So it's important that for our company and for our project, those are defined. And those can also change because maybe at company level, we have some definition of different roles, but then at project level, maybe we can add or reduce different responsibilities. So this is really important that is clarified at organizational level, at project level. And in particular, what is aspecting to our project team members, if we think about organizational level, is so important to have those defined also for the career progression and career development of our employees. Because most of the time we have those defined for the traditional jobs, but it's not really clear which are the different career path that we can have for people that deal with building information modeling. So we need to feel our employees that they can have a career within our organization, and within working for different projects that they can develop themselves. Another important topic to help project team members to know exactly what is expecting from them is to define the level of information need for our project. The level of information need is a framework that is helping us to define the quality and the granularity of information when dealing with the building information modeling. It has been initially established in the International Standard on Information Management when dealing with BIM, the ISO 19650 series, and then it has been further developed in the European standard EN 17412 part 1, concept principle. It is already available to everyone that would like to have a look and to know more on the level of information need. The level of information need is helping people to define what is expected regarding the geometrical information, so how to define the geometry, the detail, the appearance, the location, the dimensionality, and the parametric behavior of our objects within our information models. And with the objects, I don't just mean for example, the windows, the slab, and so on, but object can be also the entire building or the systems and so on, because we know that for different purposes we need to define our requirements at different level of the breakdown structure. So the level of information needed, as I say, is related to the geometrical information, but also the alphanumerical information. So which are the different attributes that we need in our project. So for example, the acoustic rating and so on. And then it is also important to define the documentation that is needed. And all these geometrical alphanumerical in the documentation should be defined for each purposes that we use our information model for. Different purposes, what I mean. So, for example, if we need to do accessibility analysis, if we need to do structure analysis, if we need to do rendering, if we need to do energy analysis, we know that the geometry and the attributes, and also the documentation that is needed is different. So the level of information need is there to help people to understand what they need to produce. And this is really helpful because we avoid to produce too much information. It is not required in our project, but we are specific. So then it's also easier to check if what we required is actually is being produced. So to enable better quality of our deliverables. So the information can be used and reused during the entire life cycle and there is not waste. So the standard EN 17412 part 1 is already available, and I advise everyone to have a look and to implement in your project when dealing with building information modeling. Is a framework that is moving forward for the old concept of LOD. So LOD using symbol numbers such as 100, 200, 300 or 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on is not really helping us to define clearly what is expected from our project and for our project members. So it's so important to adopt a better framework that is helping us to define in a more detailed way how we want our information model, how we want the information to be used during the entire life cycle.